What a performance from the Iowa Hawkeyes, who take down the Purdue Boilermakers 24-3. And I don't think anybody who's being honest with themselves and with others would have predicted or said they predicted a 24-3 win. As you can see, I am not in a studio, not in my typical scenery. So we're doing this show on the road. And so bear with us as we maybe deal with some network issues along the way. Hopefully, we'll be coming in loud and clear for the most part. We are going to be talking about the rushing performance of Caleb Johnson, the I think adequate performance from Spencer Petras, who ended up with 13 completions on 23 attempts for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm going to adjust one thing here. Hopefully this will assist us in making sure we are coming in as loud and clear as possible. Coming to you from West Lafayette here, and weird day as far as weather is concerned. I guess I was just not meant to be at a game with normal weather this year. Of course, at the Nevada game in Kinnick, where we had 3 rain delays and ended up being a 6-hour, 7-hour marathon. And now part of this day and the winds were just incredible in that second half. Debris flying all over the field, all over the stadium, and somehow, some way, Iowa comes away with a dominant performance. We are not going to have Coach Don Patterson on with us this evening. We will have him on Wednesday for a special edition of the show. Coach Patterson's actually at the Iowa State game today. I don't think he minds me saying that. So he's not a traitor, but he is at the Iowa State game. So we'll have him back here soon. Let's get Alex involved here, who is one of our early and often callers. Alex, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you? You all warmed up now in your car, like the background?
I am. Well, I'm not in my car. Yeah, I'm in the very, very back of a vehicle. We got a carload of people here, but yeah, it wasn't too bad in that second half. You had 60 degree. It's 60 degrees with no sun, but then you have 40.
I thought I saw the sun kind of peek out just for a little bit because they were showing the Hawkeye players. It looked like sunshine for that brief moment of sun, if there was any.
No, little bit, but it could have been a lot worse. We did get a little bit of rain there in the beginning of the third quarter, but I'll say this. I was pleasantly surprised that the rain stayed away because the trip out here, we had rain, I'd say the majority, at least between Ames and Bloomington in Illinois. And then once we got out here, it kind of subsided. So I don't know how rain would have changed this game. Obviously, Purdue had problems just moving the football, which is not something I expected to say, but weather was certainly a factor. Alex, your thoughts?
Well, and I kind of had that written down too, is weather, I think, helped Iowa, but I don't think it was a huge factor because, I mean, both teams had to play, in the wind and the rain. And Iowa just had a better, I think it was really came down to the run game, which Iowa obviously had a offense, a great run game. And I think near the end of the game, Caleb Johnson was like 198 yards, and everybody was begging the coaches, just let me get 2 yards. Let me get 2 yards. So good job. I was happy to see him. I think he's got to be the starting back going forward. I don't think, there's any doubt in my mind.
He was, yeah, I mean, he was, and that wasn't even, let's be honest, he carries the ball 22 times for 200 yards and a touchdown. Of course, the 75-yard rush helps those numbers, but he was the workhorse.
Oh, yeah.
Let me grab the score here. I don't believe LaShawn ended up with, how many carries did LaShawn have? He had 1 carry in the game. Jazz Patterson had 4. I mean, Gavin Williams isn't even seeing the field much right now at running back. I feel bad for him because he's a seasoned veteran, but they got 2 really good freshmen, one of which has become a workhorse.
Oh yeah, and I think I for the little what we saw Jay-Z and Patterson, I feel like he might be one of those like streakers where he's got like a Tyler Goodson where he's got I think he looked a little faster than Caleb, but that's just what I saw. I mean, obviously I could be wrong on that.
Caleb's let's not. I mean, I know you're not doing this. Let's not discredit Caleb's speed.
Oh no, Caleb is freaky fast. I just think Jay-Z and Patterson is probably just a touch faster.
That long Eric Dickerson stride, and Caleb is hard to catch. I mean, he is and you've heard me say it, Alex. I think he's going to be Iowa's best back since Sean Green. And
yeah, I think I've heard a lot of other people say that too. I was kind of scrolling through Twitter as the game was going on, and after that 75-yard touchdown run, people were making the comparison to him to Sean Green. So I think that'd be pretty cool to see if we could have another back like that.
And let me just say this: he's got a chance to be better than Sean Green. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not saying he's going to get there because Sean Green had one unbelievable year in 2008, jumped to the league, had a nice career in the NFL. Of course, running back lives are so much shorter. But Caleb Johnson, I mean, physically, he is much more impressive as a freshman than Sean Green was.
Yeah, and he's true freshman too. So I mean, he's got a long time here.
He's faster than Sean Green, but Green obviously had a lot of attributes that you want in a running workhorse, if you will. But that's what Caleb Johnson's turning into right now.
Yeah. So a question for you. So before the game, did you see the Purdue train breakdown? Were you there when that happened? So when they come out of the tunnel, they have that little choo-choo train that comes across the field.
It was putting along. You saying it broke down?
Yeah, they had to get people pushing it off the field. There's videos all over.
I was wondering why the choo-choo train was going like 2 feet and then it would stop and then it would go 2 more feet. I'm assuming now that was not intentional.
No, they had to get because when Iowa came out, they had to run around it because it was like dead center, almost in midfield, and it was pretty funny because you saw a bunch of Purdue. So maybe that was of an omen of things to come for Purdue's offense. And second, so there was a point in the game, I think it was near the end, where Charlie Jones dropped a pass and Cooper DeJean was going over to help him up, and Jack Campbell kind of pulled him away, saying, "No, don't do that." I'm not going to comment on it. There's video of it during the game. It was in the fourth quarter. I'm not going to comment if Jack Campbell should have done that or he shouldn't have. I'm not going to comment on that, but I was kind of curious if you because I watched the game and they didn't kind of zoom in on Charlie to see if he like shook hands with any of the Iowa players. I was kind of interested if he went out there and shook hands, said good game, or if he just went straight to the locker room. So
he had tons of Iowa players embrace him after the game.
Good.
I don't know about Jack Campbell. I can tell you John Wagner embraced him. I can tell you Spencer Petras made a beeline to Charlie Jones. Same with Alex Padilla. No, there were a lot of warm embraces for Charlie.
That's good to see. There's, obviously in the game, it's one of those things where, he played for your team, but it's a game time. You're on the opposing team. We're gonna, beat you down. But after the game, we wish you well and everything. So, I know you were at the game, and people in the comments, and I don't know if you can read it, but the announcers, Devin Gardner, and I can't think of the other guys, someone help me out with that, were absolutely horrible. Anything Purdue did, I'm serious, anything Purdue did was the greatest thing since sliced bread. It was so one-sided. It was not even, I've heard some bad announcers. I think the one against Northwestern was not great, but these guys were just awful. And it was, and hey, did you know that Charlie Jones went to Iowa? And that Charlie Jones and Aiden O'Connell are they're best friends.
Well, listen, Devin Gardner, as bad as he may have been on the broadcast, he could not have been worse than Brock Osweiler last week. I think maybe the Fox, Alex, maybe the Fox crew is trying to make up for all the love to. I remember last week, Brock Osweiler talking to tough times don't last, tough people do.
Yeah, so I don't know. I would challenge you to watch this game with the announcers on and just like. Ugh.
Absolutely.
But I'm gonna kind of run through this. I think I said Caleb Johnson's. I think defense played great. My personal thought is I think Charlie Jones, how good he is for Purdue, actually hurts Purdue because I think either Chad Lysico or David Eichelt commented saying that's Aiden O'Connor's first read, and if he's not open, I think Iowa had 3 or 4 sacks. That all came from Iowa covering up Charlie Jones. And Charlie Jones is a great wide receiver, but he's no David Bell. And the problem is they don't have that second guy that can really break you, like David Bell, last year, and I can't think of the other guy who can't play because of academics. I think Milton Wright.
Right. Yep.
So you took away Charlie Jones, and Payne Durham had a decent game, but you took away Charlie Jones. I was pretty much Purdue's offense, and I was happy with Iowa doing that, keying in on that because it seemed like last year with David Bell they didn't do that. So, but I don't think Charlie Jones is a David Bell, and it's not a shot at Charlie Jones, but it's just not.
Let me just say this. Let's just at least give because I've had this debate with people. Let's just at least give Charlie Jones his fair due here because
Oh,
when a guy
he's a
came
great
in here,
wide receiver.
the team scores 3 points. He goes off for 11 catches for 104 yards. And I say go off. There was nothing working. The next closest was Payne Durham with 2 catches for 35 yards. The next closest receiver, Yassine, 1 catch for 4 yards. I mean, it literally could not get the ball to TJ Sheffield. I don't even know what other receivers were out there.
The one
But
kick returner guy. Oh, I think he got the 1 reception for 4 yards.
and let me just say this. Charlie Jones catches everything that comes his way within reason. He had balls thrown behind him, above him. Aiden O'Connell struggled with accuracy all day. But
He got
Charlie,
blitzed a couple times too.
say it again.
Aiden O'Connell got hit a couple times too, and I think maybe that probably added to it.
My point is Charlie Jones is a darn good, reliable receiver, and you're right. He's not David Bell.
Yeah,
but
that's
he
what I'm
catches
saying.
everything that comes his way, and I think he's an NFL guy. I think he's going to have a real shot at being a role guy in the NFL.
I think so too. And last couple things, and then I'll get off so other people can get on. Maybe I'll just couple negatives. I'll just say that when Iowa got on the 1 yard line, and we didn't go try a QB sneak, 1st and goal. It was on the 1 yard line. I was like, so that was questionable play calling that entire series. And then when Caleb Johnson went off for 75 yards, the very next series we go 3 passes. I questioned that, and then that was really the only thing negative I had the entire game. The offense I thought played well.
If we're talking about negatives, because look, and I put the banner up to start the show. This was a complete performance. You can't expect more from an Iowa team in these conditions on the road, given the offense. And Petrus, I give him credit. I'll admit this. I was flat out wrong about this game because my prediction was if Petrus is pressured, Iowa will struggle. And they got home quite a bit, but they had to send a lot of extra guys. And I'll give Petrus credit. He made, for the most part, good decisions when under duress. And he was not always accurate, but neither was Aiden O'Connell. You're not going to have a perfectly accurate game as a quarterback in these conditions. Yeah. And so I give Petrus a lot of credit for how he played. I will say this. I was frustrated early in the first quarter because for some reason we still don't understand what a waste down is. We still don't understand what a waste down is.
We had 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, you just run the ball. I just look, and it works out. And then anybody say, well, look, they got the first down, they won the game, whatever. But it's all about mindset. And I don't quite understand. It's one thing to run the ball on 2nd and 1, 2nd and 2, 60 to 70% of the time. But it does not make any sense to run the football on 2nd and 2, 2nd and 1, 99.9% of the time. It just doesn't make sense. You never break tendency. And I've had people say, well, I had somebody respond, during the game, reach out to me and say, well, perhaps they're afraid of losing yardage on 2nd and 1. Well, okay, fine. If you don't think you can protect your quarterback when defense is selling out against the run on 2nd and 1, because that's what you've shown in every game and every play this season, every waste down this season in every game, then you're never going to be able to protect the quarterback. So I don't understand that, but I give credit to Brian because he seemed to call a good game. Certainly, I'm not a guy to be able to dissect play calling, but it helps when your guys are executing. And right now, that offensive line is executing, and that just helps everybody.
No, and that was the other comment. The offensive line played well today. I think they found their combination. They need to stick with it. And I had said, and I mentioned those negatives, but those are really small negatives. And you said this team played a complete game. This was a complete, 3 phases: offense, defense, and special teams. Fourth quarter aside, that fourth quarter, offense was just playing keep away at that point. But very small negatives. I'm not saying that this offense is bad because of that. No, it's just some things to maybe they can work on, come next week against Wisconsin. So offensive line played well, and I may have said this last week, but I think Spencer Petras, when he got benched at Ohio State, and this is my conspiracy theory on this, is that lit a fire under him. And when they talked about him having a short leash, I think that lit a fire under him, saying, my job is no longer secure. I need to really play well to keep my job. We saw that at Northwestern. Granted, it's against Northwestern. And then we saw it again today against Purdue. He made good decisions. He didn't have a great day, but with the wind conditions and all the weather factors, he played pretty good. I was really happy pleased with the way he played. So, But last thing I'll say, I was actually nervous this entire game until like 5 minutes left in that fourth quarter, just because knowing how explosive Purdue is. So,
If there's
but yeah,
anybody that can pick up points in a hurry, it's Purdue. But
it's
I'll
Purdue.
tell you, once we hit the 10-minute mark in that fourth, just again, maybe it's because I was there, but just with the conditions, you just felt there's no way this team's going down there and scoring 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and final thing I'll say, Alex, and then I'll let you slide. My overall takeaway from this game, as we were walking back to the car, I made this comment. The wind, you could say, cancels out each offense. But the difference is Iowa's defense is so disciplined, and they never seem to miss an assignment at any level. And Purdue's defense today was far from disciplined. Their secondary, Grant Michael, the big-time boiler, brought this up earlier in the week, and he was right. The secondary is bad right now for Purdue. They got problems. But even, I mean, we're talking across the board for Purdue. They are not disciplined. Phil Parker just has his guys in the right place at the right time. There's nothing you can do in this situation if you're Purdue, because we saw Ohio State put up numbers against this Iowa defense, but Stroud.
it wasn't Iowa offense didn't help it though.
Well, no, and you're exactly right. But Stroud, when he made plays, when he threw touchdown passes, those balls were on the money. And there's just no way Aiden O'Connell was going to be able to fulfill that level of accuracy with these conditions, these weather conditions, and the Iowa defense was just sound all the way around.
Well, look at Ohio State today. They only scored 21 against Northwestern in almost worse conditions. So yeah. And then I know I said I'd get off. But you had mentioned or posted a video about some issue or some concerns you have if Iowa wins out and goes 8-4. Is that, and I have the same issues. One, if they go 8-4, Kurt Ferentz was like, well, we won the last 5 games. Look at our offensive production. We're going to keep Brian around. Problem number one. Problem number two, I see with that is if they do, Brian moves on. Let's say he gets a job at the NFL. They let Kirk pick the new offensive coordinator. I'm thinking, I don't want another guy that's like Kirk. I want somebody different. So that's a concern I have with that is that, and maybe concern number 3 is that maybe if they do decide to let Brian go, they wait too long and then they can't get the offensive coordinator they want. So that was my last thought. But anyways, thanks for taking my call. Sorry for everyone if I've taken up your time, but I appreciate the time I've been on here. So have a good rest of the afternoon and go Hawks.
Appreciate it, Alex. Thanks for the call. All right, yeah, and I understand where Alex is coming from. The fears, I've had these conversations with a number of people. The fears of Brian being retained because Iowa finds a way to climb to 7 or 8 wins. I get that fear. Look, one performance or two. This was a good performance from the Iowa offense. It was good. It was not great. They scored 24 points. It was a good performance. This is what they need to do to win football games. All right. Now, is the Purdue defense to the level of a Minnesota or Wisconsin or certainly any of those top 10 defenses they played earlier in the year? Of course not. But they did what they needed to do. But that is not going to make up for the systemic issues that Iowa's offense has had over the past however many years, especially these last 2 seasons. So Brian's got a long ways to go. But I understand fans being concerned that, hey, we're not going to get the change we still feel like we need if Iowa finds a way to climb to 7, 8, even 9 wins are not out of the realm of possibilities here. If they win out, you can get to 9-4. So I understand the concerns there. By the way, you can call the show. I didn't put the number up here, but the number is, as always, 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. And, of course, you can also join by StreamYard. Click the link in the description below if you're watching this game or watching the show on our From the Hawkeye of the Storm channel. I will add it as we welcome our next guest on. I will add it to the Iowa at the Voice of College Football channel. That's one thing I did not do. All right, let's get to our next caller here. Ryan, welcome back to the show, sir.
Hey, Corey, boiler down.
Boiler down. You got it, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I told you earlier in the week, this is like just my most annual angry day when we lose to Purdue, who I always find so beatable.
You seem to have a lot of anger. You seem to like you had a lot of anger before towards Brett Bielema, too, though.
Oh, no, Brett Bielema is awesome. I just, got, there are food shortages, Anyway, hey, he's impactful in many ways. Um, you're in West Lafayette, I assume, right?
I am.
Yeah. So how was it sitting around all those Purdue fans? I mean, were their tears delicious or what?
I don't feel bad for Purdue fans, but I made the comment during the game. It's kind of a lifeless crowd now. It doesn't help when it's 24-3, and it was mostly full. Ryan, it was a sellout, but it was not full. It was mostly full.
Mhm.
But I did kind of feel bad for some of these fans because they just never really had much of a reason to cheer in this game. Credit to Iowa for that. But even a Kinnick crowd, when you're down 24-3, they're involved in the game. You can feel anxiety. And I think that just shows your fan base cares and if your fan base is invested. And I didn't really feel that with these West Lafayette Purdue fans. I'm not trying to sell them short. Maybe that's a result of the stadium and how it's configured. But yeah, it did not have the life of a Kinnick, not even close.
It didn't look that way on TV either. Um, that had to
No,
feel good though. You live in Ames, right?
I do.
Oh man, that's got to be a rough life. How do you do that? You're a Hawkeye.
I love. You know what? I love Ames.
I mean, I'm just
I've
saying, isn't
I've
it?
grown accustomed.
Is it hard to be a Hawkeye in Ames?
No, because I mean I don't flaunt. I'm not a flaunter as it relates to Iowa football.
Oh well, hey, good on you.
You-
Uh, I thought it was great to see Phil completely solve the Purdue riddle. Um, that's the one program that has really given our defense fits over the years. And I don't know, maybe they circled this game for a long, long time, but I mean, I cannot tell you how awesome it was just to see how. I mean, we're talking what, the second best offense in the Big Ten, and they were completely lifeless, And on the offensive side, I think that the MVP of the season, or well, from last week on, are the opposing coaches and the reporter that ripped our O line as being soft and unathletic. Because I sure think that was a fire that.
I take it you didn't like those comments.
Well, of course not, but I didn't disagree at the time. But I'll tell you what, I sure thought they have stepped up. Sure, you can always nitpick a play here and there. Uh, Plum had a really bad whiff that I remember, but overall played okay. But you know, Caleb getting 200 yards. There was some great. Now, some of that was just Caleb, but there was some great blocking, especially run blocking overall in this
Absolutely.
game. In this game, and Spencer. Spencer looked awesome in the first half for the most part. Of course, a couple bad throws, but he looked really good. In typical Iowa fashion, I think he had 4 or 5 passing yards for the entire second half. Because we just
Was
milked
it
the.
really? Was it only 4 or 5?
He had 188, I think, at halftime. Because I was joking with my family, like, hey, he's going to be on pace for 360 some yards. And of course, knowing that that's not going to happen. But at halftime, he was at 188.
Okay, just got the official box score from the university, and I can tell you this for a certainty here.
192 is what he
Let's
finished
see.
with.
First quarter, they had 63 yards passing. Second quarter, they had 119 yards passing. Third quarter, Iowa with 8 yards passing. Fourth quarter, they had 2 yards passing. Wow. But, they did.
Oh,
Ryan, they just
okay.
stopped throwing.
Oh, I
They
know.
stopped throwing the
I know. Which
know.
it was a little
I mean,
unfortunate just in the sense that Purdue has a awful secondary, and it would have, and kind of like what Devin Gardner was saying, it would really build up Spencer's confidence a little bit to exploit that a little bit more. But when it appears that the defense has the game well in control, Kirk's going to run out the clock as much as he can. And obviously, I can't blame him when Caleb Johnson was, going for 200 yards. Um, watching Caleb Johnson next year behind Caden Proctor and improved offensive existing linemen, that could be pretty dangerous.
I agree. And Fast Outdoor Food doesn't like the pregame music. I'm sorry. He loves the show. Appreciate that. And let me just say this, Mike. Did Mike even watch the game? I'd like to think, Michigan Mike here. I'm guessing he did not watch the game. I understand that a lot of people don't like Brian Ferentz, but you have to give credit where credit is due. And usually when you execute to a solid level like they did today, part of that is play calling. So I'm not going to say, well, this was Phil's win. No, I mean, Brian deserves credit for putting his guys in to succeed.
Yeah, today doesn't erase the concerns of Brian or the past ills.
No, it doesn't.
Not at all.
No.
There's a couple people on the message board. Oh, how do you like nepotism now? Well, not very much. But the thing is, Brian had a pretty good day today. And like you said, give him some credit. The play calling was improved with the exception, of course, of lack of waste downs. There were 2nd and 1s where I thought we could have really taken advantage of that secondary. But I think we had like 5 or 6 plays over 20 yards in this game, which might be probably is a season high for us. And so the last thing I was just going to say is I disagree with the last caller. The announcing was fine. Gardner, I thought, was probably more pro-Iowa than anything else. And, he was very, very complimentary of our defense and Phil Parker in particular. I don't really understand what was so bad. I don't think they were. Yeah, they mentioned a couple times Charlie Jones played for Iowa, but that's the storyline, right? I mean, of course, that's going to get mentioned.
Yeah, and I've never had an issue with Devin Gardner. I mean, I don't think he's the best at what he does. He's also young. He hasn't been doing analyst work for Fox very long. So I will watch it back. By the way, I will when I get a chance. I will watch this game back on television. But no, I mean honestly, if I'm Iowa right now, I'm just feeling good on every level because
absolutely,
they were able to figure out a way to. Charlie Jones still eclipsed 100 yards. Jeff Brom has had a 100-yard receiver in every game versus Iowa since he took over, since Brom took over at Purdue. So they still got there, but boy, it was a much different look. And yes, they don't have a David Bell. They don't have a Rondale Moore. Charlie Jones, we never claimed that Charlie Jones is that, but he is an excellent possession receiver. And he's the best they've got right now. I would love to see him still in an Iowa jersey, but and I felt bad for Tyrone Tracy. That kid has got so many issues with drops. And I just, if it hasn't clicked by now, it probably never will.
No, probably not. Well, it's a great day to be a Hawkeye. Enjoy your time there. And then, next year, I guess we're in Ames for your game, right? With Iowa State.
Next year, we're in Ames for my game.
Iowa State.
For the Cyhawk game?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we are back in Ames next year. It won't be my guess is it will not be the first thing.
I mean, it's just that when you have a great win like today, and I thought, on the road against a team that won 4 of the last 5, I always think back of some of those such winnable games that got away. And, that one especially still sticks in my craw. But today is a good day. Go Hawks. And I think, there is some reasons to be excited, especially with Caleb. Him running behind a Caden Proctor next year and an improved offensive line, which you have to think will only get better. And we'll break in a new quarterback who is still going to have to throw the ball, and we're going to see what happens. there is still some good ingredients on this team going forward, and they're a little on the young side, but we're going to be all right. At least today, I'm very confident of a bowl. I thought today was going to dictate a lot on if we make a bowl or not, and I'm very confident that we will. And I wasn't very confident a week ago.
Well, Ryan, you and I both know the college football season is always way too short. So, yeah, there's not going to be much negativity gravitating for me because you can't ask for much more than 24-3.
Today was beautiful. Great job for the coaches and players. Thank you, man.
Always enjoy your calls. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
All right. Couple comments here. Lisa, always bringing the positivity. She says, I had a good feeling about this one. Honestly, think the Charlie Jones thing was great for everyone. Chuck gets his catches, and Iowa had a reason to take this game personally. I have no problem with that take at all. I do appreciate Don bringing up appreciate you listening to my pick, Don. Says, didn't Corey pick Purdue to win? Yes, I did, and so did Vegas, Don. So I was not the only one that made that prediction, and good for Iowa finding a way to beat the odds makers. And Don, again, thank you for being such an avid, loyal, faithful, avid fan of the show. Appreciate that, Don. Okay. Papa Echo Zulu says, thank God Bell left. Yeah, he was something else. Pugmaster, appreciate the super sticker, Pugmaster. Appreciate you being here and for supporting the show as well. And let's go ahead and get OS for Hawks, who's been on hold here. OS for Hawks, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Corey. It's a good win for the Hawks.
Absolutely. Can't complain, right?
Yeah. And I'm not going to try to be negative because I agree with you. We had a total performance, offense, defense, special teams. And I will go on special teams, but the punt game was good again. Just a couple things to bring up. I made some notes. Why do we throw screenplays only to LaShawn Williams? I know we threw one to Caleb finally, but it seems like every time LaShawn comes in the game on third down, then we throw some sort of screenplay to him.
Well,
it's just something that I noticed. That's all.
I don't have that data in front of me, sir, but I can tell you for a certainty they were throwing some to Gavin earlier in the year. Because at one point, they made the proclamation that Gavin was the only – he was kind of the guy they trusted catching out of the backfield.
Yeah.
So I agree. Tendencies are something that Iowa struggles with. They struggle with building tendencies and then break. There's nothing wrong with building tendencies. Everybody's got tendencies, but figuring out a way to break those. But it was nice to see Caleb get involved, and I don't remember the exact play, but you're right. The Caleb Johnson screenplay was a nice call, and it worked.
Yeah. The other thing, and you'll see this if you watch the game back in the broadcast, they brought up a point that I did not know about and I thought was very interesting.
Okay.
Petrus's first touchdown pass was the first road touchdown thrown by Petrus since 10-1-21 against Maryland last year.
Okay, so we're talking over a year.
On the road, the first touchdown pass on the road. Yeah. Now, I don't know if that's correct. That's what they said.
So the road. So obviously he didn't throw one on the road at Wisconsin.
They're talking about since last year at Maryland.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think of games since that game that you probably. I don't have any reason to doubt you. That's an astounding stat.
No, I mean that's not the stat that I had. That's the stat that they had on the TV broadcast. One of the broadcasters, I don't remember which one, brought it up. And I was kind of like shocked at it myself, and I thought I would tell you about it. A couple other things. I think Deontay Craig needs a little more playing time. Every time that guy gets in, he is making plays.
Craig was great, absolutely.
And I don't want to. I did tell you that Caleb Johnson a couple shows ago needed to get more touches. Talking to you.
hey, listen.
I know.
You weren't breaking any news to me. You know I've been touting that kid since he signed.
I agree. And then to get to the offensive line, they are playing so much better in this new configuration. a person that I was on top of and saying bad things about was Connor Colby. And Connor Colby, playing at left guard, had a great game today. I particularly watched him because, just because. So I just want to say that the offensive line played great. And like any football game, you're going to have some negative plays. I mean, you can't block 100% of the people 100% of the time. It's just never going to happen. And my last statement is, it's the only, and I don't want to sound negative, but the most infuriating thing to me is the rest of the season if we would had some of this offense we've had the last couple of weeks. And it just wanted to pull your hair out. But like I said,
let's remember these last two weeks. You're talking about what could have been. They have these last two games, specifically against Northwestern and Purdue. I would venture to say these are two of the three worst defenses they've played this season, and then Nevada being the other one. And I'm not taking nothing against Purdue, but I'm just saying the numbers would indicate that Michigan's a better defense, Ohio State's a much better defense, Illinois is a much better defense, Rutgers, Iowa State, they've played good defenses. Now, that doesn't mean the ineptitude of this offense is excused then. And it's clear they've made strides. I was hesitant to make that declaration after the Northwestern game, but it's clear they've made strides. Now it's a matter of, can you perform to this level, especially with the run game? You talked about blocking. I'm no offensive line guru. We'll see what Don Patterson has to say about the line on Wednesday when we have him on the show. But can they put this type of performance together against Wisconsin and against Minnesota? Because those two teams, excellent defenses. Wisconsin's got their stride again. Those will be the ultimate tests.
I agree. And again, Corey, I wanted to compliment you. I love your shows. And thank you so much. Go Hawks.
Appreciate it, sir. Thanks for the call. All right, folks, the number is not on your screen, but it's 515-635-1601. Let's go ahead and throw this up here. Actually, what I'll do is I'll put this on the bottom line here for everybody, maybe. And somebody asked me in the chat, why are you in the backseat of a car? Well, I explained that already, but I'll explain it again. I was at the game today. I don't live in West Lafayette, so I'm traveling from the game. And I just, didn't really have a choice. So I appreciate all 315 of you being on here right now. We've got close to 300 on our main channel. We've got about 40 on our Iowa at the Boise College football channel. CS Music Factory wants a prediction for Wisconsin game time. You thinking a night game? Boy, I have no idea. I wish I could give you an idea. Obviously, with Fox prioritizing the big noon kickoff, the Rutgers game this year was at night. Illinois was at night. This game was at 11. I have no idea how to predict that. I'd have to compare it because there's some games that are set, right? So I don't know. I'm guessing without looking at the schedule. I think Wisconsin's up next, right? I should know this. I'm pretty sure Wisconsin's up next. Eric, is Wisconsin up next? Eric is, he says yes. So I'm guessing Wisconsin's up next. We'll know either today or tomorrow. They're not going to wait. I think there's they got to at least give a 6-day notice. Rick says, Corey, you said earlier this week that Purdue is a decent offense, a top 50. Now you're downplaying it. Rick, I did not say that. I said they're a top 50 defense, and they are. The numbers say they are. At least heading into this game, they are. There's a lot of difference between top 50 and top 10 to 15. They've played arguably 5 top 15 defenses up until this point. Never claimed Purdue as a top 15 defense, but it's a much better defense than what we saw last week in Northwestern. Regardless, Iowa, they did what they needed to do last week. They did what they needed to do this week. So I think if people want to ignore that now, they're just not paying attention or they have another agenda. Let's get to our next caller. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Lance Helton.
Hey, Lance, how are you?
Good. Hey, I've got a quick question. So how many series of wins does Brian Ferentz have to string in order for him to keep his job? Or because they're looking good right now, but, do they have to go on and win a bowl game for people to think, otherwise? I'm saying, I mean,
yeah, great question, Lance. Let me just ask a clarifying question first. Are you asking how much will it take for fans to be at ease, or how much will it take for Kirk to do everything he can to retain Brian?
Wow. So, okay. So,
Well, it's two
yeah.
different things. I mean, those two things are totally different. I think if
you're right. So yeah, you spun that. So yeah. So I don't think
here's my fear.
I don't think if they went
let me answer your question. I
undefeated.
think the fear is,
Go ahead.
I've heard people say this. I think the fear from some people is if they end up over 500, that Kirk could. These are not my words. These are words of others. If they end up over 500, Kirk could spin this and find a way to keep Brian on, even with an offense that's going to end up ranking in the 110s to 120s.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
man.
That's the fear. Now,
go ahead.
To me, Brian's got a lot of work to do, because I was calling for him to lose his job 3 weeks ago, and I don't just throw that.
And you're right. Around. You're right. And so, I it's like, everybody was like spinning this Northwestern game, like, they were just like, Northwestern's nobody. I mean, they were like what, 1-5, they only won one game. So it's like, anybody could have walked over Northwestern. And so all of a sudden we come in there and we, beat them. And so now all of a sudden things are on the up and up, and then we beat Purdue. And it's like, oh man, well, maybe Brian doesn't need to be fired. I don't know. So I mean,
who's saying that?
I don't think
are people actually saying that? Are people actually reacting to this win and saying, well, I guess Brian doesn't need to be fired? Are people actually out there saying that? Because I've not heard that.
Hey, I will say one thing, man. I was born up in Des Moines and West Des Moines, but I live down in Florida, and I have cousins that live in Des Moines now. So I've heard, I don't have like access to WHO or whatever the news is.
Sure.
I have, just from what you are showing, which is a really good, you are very informative. But I talked to my cousins, which are still up there in West Des Moines, and it's like they were just like what you were saying. They kind of wanted Kirk off with the head, kind of thing. My cousins were talking about, even Kirk Ferentz. They wanted to oust him, like what you were just talking about with Brian. They wanted to just clean house, it seemed like. So anyway, and you're doing a good job, man. I mean, I'm so glad and fortunate to be able to hear what you call it, your show and everything. I mean, it's a good thing, and I miss being up north and just so thankful, man. So go Hawks, man.
I appreciate that. Where are you at in Florida, if I may ask?
Jacksonville.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to say to stay cool, because I'd love to be in Jacksonville, but enjoy your time down there, and I appreciate you supporting the show.
Thanks so much, and you're doing a good job, man. Go Hawks, man. All right.
Appreciate it, sir. Enjoyed that call. Appreciate all the callers here so far. I got to respond to a couple of these comments, so I knew some of these individuals would come out, and I enjoy everybody. Rick says, Corey, you seem disappointed that Iowa won. Do you want Iowa to lose so Brian Ferentz gets canned? Bob, Corey, you must be sad that the Hawks won today. Whether they win or whether they lose, I try to come on here and speak my mind. So I just, authenticity. That's all I can do, I guess. I think if anybody who was at the game with me today sees how much of a fan that I am. But again, when I'm on this show, I try to be a host and try to analyze as best I can, certainly with my limited knowledge, if you will. So, but appreciate you being here, anybody and everybody. So, somebody asked the question about Don. Don is not with us today, so Don will be with us Wednesday. We're going to have a special late post game on Wednesday. So in place of our Hawkeye Hangout live show, we'll have a show with Coach Patterson this coming Wednesday, time TBA. Tony says, what's your bowl outlook? I am, people ask this every year. I'm never one to follow bowl projections and whatnot. I sure hope it's not Detroit. But boy, they'd have to really collapse now not to make a bowl game, because you're sitting at 5 wins. They'd have to lose out, right? They're going to get into a bowl at 6-6. So they're going to have a chance likely to have a chance to make it over 500 with a bowl win. They may get over 500 in the regular season. If they can win out, they'll end up at 8-4. It's possible. So I don't really love to go down to Nashville if that's an option on the table. I think Charlotte's an option as well. The Duke's Mayo Bowl is somewhere down there. I don't know that I'd be going to any of those games. I don't really have a ton of interest in going down to Nashville. But I guess we'll wait and see. Got a lot of games to. I mean, technically, Iowa's not dead in the conference discussion, in the discussion for the West. So we'll just have to wait and see. Comment here from OS for Hawks. How strong was the wind? Well, they had the wind advisory, which was a advisory, a warning of winds of 50 plus. We had a friend of ours that her hat took off in the stadium and somebody had to go retrieve it. We had debris. I mean, at one point I had to shield a friend of mine because there were boxes and debris flying around. I mean, we were kind of fearing for our lives. So we did bring ponchos. The ponchos were flying in our faces. So anyways, Tim, I appreciate this. Tim says, love the show. Glad I discovered it this season. Great listen for when I'm spending hours working out, running. Well, Tim, do your best not to give up the running or the working out because that's more important. But I appreciate you making us a part of your show or your day. LH, why are you in the back seat of a car? I think I covered that already a couple times. Steve says, I don't know if he's talking to me or who he's talking to. You're not understanding the waist down philosophy, to be honest. If you're talking to me, I don't know if you're talking to me, Steve, but please explain it. If I'm missing something with waist downs, I mean, I talk to Don Patterson about waist downs all the time. But please explain it to me if I'm missing something. How about Ohio State, by the way? We talked about this. Ohio State struggling with Northwestern today. Of course, putting up 51 on an excellent Iowa defense, and I get it. I have no question that the winds were just as bad, if not worse, up in Evanston today. I mean, the Windy City, it's the Windy City for a reason. I have no question they were probably just as bad, if not worse. But let me pull up the final score here. Iowa State, by the way, leading West Virginia early. Ohio State winning 21-10 at Northwestern, a Northwestern team that gave up 33 last week against Iowa. So certainly an impressive fight for the Wildcats, but ultimately the Buckeyes come out on top. All right. Want to give a shout out to our sponsor for our show today and appreciate the support from Brad Van Meter over at State Farm in Des Moines. If you are interested in getting a quote, call Brad and his team down on Fleur Drive in Des Moines at 515-256-6480. All right. That's 515-256-6480. Brad and his team, they just spend countless hours taking care of their customers' needs, reviewing coverages, making changes as needed. They will treat you fair. They'll treat you right, try to get you the best quote for your needs. And they save so many people, so many customers on rates, help to bring their rates down on a yearly basis. In fact, State Farm as a company just celebrated their 100th year of being in business. It's the largest auto insurance retailer in the nation. So give Brad and his team a chance to care for your insurance needs. 515-256-6480. 515-256-6480 and give them a chance to save you some money while getting some great insurance coverage. So again, thank you to Brad Van Meter and his team down in Des Moines. All right, let's get Hawkeye Howard in the mix here. Hawkeye Howard, how you doing, sir? How's the recovery? Are you still in the ICU?
No, I'm in recovery. I
wonderful.
had triple bypass. I had triple
You
bypass.
are so active on the show. You just had triple bypass surgery, and you're on here calling into the show. That's
yeah.
I don't know what's
when you're a Hawkeye fan, you're a Hawkeye fan, and I'm a fan of yours, Corey. So, and the other day when I was on your show, I just got out of surgery about 8 hours, and I heard your show going to be on, so I just put my phone on and just let it sit there and listen to your show. So, but it was a good game today. What do you think of that botched play with Arlen Bruce, and what was that all about?
Are you talking about the play where Arland and Caleb that ran into each other?
Yes,
Or was
that
it,
looked like two high school kids.
I mean, miscommunication happens. I mean, it was. I think the bigger part of that drive was the drive where they were at the 1 yard line. They had 1st and goal at the 1 and didn't get in. So that's frustrating. Those are the things you look back on tape and say we just cannot allow ourselves to waste this opportunity. But yeah, mishaps happen.
Yeah, I yes they do. It's just, you know, it looked better. I'm with you. They looked okay and stuff, but it still does not. There's just going to have to be changes at the end of the year, so we all know this, and I hope Kurt knows it. But we'll have to wait and see, and hope for the best. And
yeah, I don't know if Kirk knows that yet. Hawkeye Howard.
Yeah. We've been banging on this drum for how long, Corey? I think he hurts.
Well, I'm not listening. I fully expected people who have watched this show and have heard my opinion of Iowa needs to move on from Brian, and I think I've always been respectful in expressing that. But I knew there'd be people out here that come on and say, "Well, what do you think now? You're backtracking." No, I mean it's a week by week thing, right? And we're not prophets. We're not trying to predict what happens in each game. I mean, we do try to predict it, but we're never going to be accurate in doing that. I give credit to Brian Howard. I give credit to Brian and how he called this game. And was Spencer great? No, Spencer was adequate, just like he was last week. He was adequate. When you have a running game, when you have Caleb Johnson getting 200 yards on the ground, you're going to be just fine. All right. So that's the big thing here. If you can give credit where credit is due, you give Brian credit for calling a solid game. You give that offensive line credit. George Barnett, he's been ripped on. Kirk Ferentz, those two guys are considered to be the O-line gurus, right, in this staff. Give those two guys credit because there's no question this offensive line has gotten better in recent weeks.
Yeah, it has. And you see it, but I don't think it's good enough to save his job. But, but, it is what it is. We'll just take it and move on. So, and we'll go from there. All right. Well, I usually make this quick and painless. And so I'm going to jump off and listen to you. Okay.
Appreciate you, sir. Take care. And we hope to see you next time, either in your truck or at home.
Well, I should be out of here Wednesday.
Okay. Well, we'll have a show Wednesday night if you're up for it.
All right. I'll be here.
All right, sir. Take care. Appreciate
the call. Care.
Mr. Triple Bypass Open Heart Surgery, Hawkeye Howard, jumping on the show with us. Appreciate that, Hawkeye Howard. And he has been a loyal contributor here. So do certainly appreciate it. And he's one of our premium subscribers. So Hawkeye Howard and everybody who's a subscriber, appreciate that. The Big Time Boiler says, congratulations to Iowa. Told you some drama going on with the Purdue defense. Yeah, he was right. Grant was right about that. The issues in the secondary were obvious, right? And that's why I say Petrus played adequately, right? He wasn't throwing dimes, right? He was getting the ball where it needed to go most of the time. But that secondary, it seemed like there were constantly receivers open. I don't know how many under routes they hit for big gains. They had problems containing Laporta, had problems containing Lachey in a couple of plays, Reganey. And Iowa was down Brody Brecht, who right now is one of their starting receivers. Deontay Vines, I'd love to see him get more involved. But again, they did what they needed to do, and give credit where credit is due on that. But appreciate the Big Time Boiler reaching back out and being a part of our pre-game coverage throughout the week. Scott Post still wants Brian Ferentz gone. I understand it. Okay. Shadow Wukin, if I'm saying it correctly. Hey, Corey, name a QB or a wide receiver or a running back who has been above adequate since Brian has been OC. A wide receiver, QB, or running back. Well, Nate Stanley, I guess you can argue he nearly broke the all-time record. Or did he break the all-time record for passing yards in a season? He was pretty good in 2017. He had his accuracy issues as the season went on. I thought Tyler Goodson had his moments, but I wouldn't say those guys were above average, but he's had some good skill position players. nobody that's going to make a huge name in the NFL yet. I think Caleb Johnson's got an opportunity maybe to be this best skill position player in the Brian Ferentz era. I think that's certainly possible. Kellen, Corey, you said this was the test for the online O-line. In my opinion, they passed the test. Absolutely, they did. Test is going to get stronger. It's going to get tougher next week, Kellen, because as I said, Purdue is a better defense than Northwestern. They passed both tests. Now Wisconsin, right? Wisconsin's a much better defense than what we saw today. So that will be a different type of challenge. Somebody's saying snow next week in Iowa City. Can someone confirm this? I don't know if that's true or not. Berger says, honest question. This is Micah, by the way. I remember your name. Micah says, honest question. Who does everyone think the QB will be next season? No read on that, Berger. I wish I did. No read at all. I just don't know. I don't think Petrus will be back. I'm standing by that. I don't think Padilla will be back. I don't know why he would be at this point. Maybe Alabus stays, but I've heard that he may be on his way out. You're going to get Linez in. You're going to get Carson May back, and then you may be looking at a guy from the portal if Iowa can effectively do what they need to do. I got a guy trying to eat his burrito really, really slowly and quietly so as not to disturb this unbelievable show. So anyways, speaking of food, CS Music Factory says, Corey, what's for dinner? Maybe a large cheese pizza or some chicken wings to celebrate the win. Be all for that. Kevin, and to everybody, appreciate all the positivity and the compliments. It does mean something. Kevin says, enjoy the show a lot. New Iowa fan from Houston. Learned a lot about the team here. Thank you, Kevin. Michael says you're a staunch Hawkeye fan and a terrific host. Thank you, Michael. I definitely appreciate that and appreciate you being here. Tyler has a question about Caleb Johnson. Is he going to be the next Sean Green? I think he's a different runner than Sean Green. Sean Green especially in the NFL, turned into a bit of a plotter. Caleb Johnson ain't never going to be no plotter. All right. He just doesn't play that way. He's got we talked about the long stride. He's bigger. He's taller. He's faster. Now, does he run with the same authority? Not yet. Not to the level of a Sean Green. But boy, he made a nice jump cut in this game behind the line of scrimmage, which he has not shown off as much. He's getting comfortable, and he is the bell cow moving forward, folks. And I'm not the only one who told you so. Lots of people who knew what Caleb Johnson brought to the table back in the spring, back in the summer, with a lot of people saying, hey, this guy's for real, and he certainly has proven that so far. Appropriate shout out to Bill Brazier. Certainly thoughts go out to his family. One of the great coaches in Iowa's history. Longtime defensive coordinator under Hayden Fry. Bill Brazier passed away yesterday. No good friends with Don Patterson, so thinking of Don today as he mourns the loss of a great friend and a great coach. Appreciate you, Charles, for being here. Spaceboy74, do you guys all feel we would do better with a more mobile QB? How hard is it to find another Brad Banks? Apparently pretty tough. Well, there are guys out there. Iowa has not made a concerted effort to go mobile, at least not in the portal. But, I mean, guys like Linez and guys like James Reese are in 24. Those guys are more mobile. They're not Kyler Murray. They're not Russell Wilson. They're not Patrick Mahomes, but they are more mobile. And Marco Linez reminds me a little bit of how Brad played. If you go back and watch Brad Banks play, now we're comparing apples to oranges when you're comparing high school tape to college tape, but there is a correlation there, at least in my opinion. Brett says there's a small chance of snow according to KCRG. Good to know. Good to know. Tony says weather for next Saturday, 37 is the high, 19 for the low. So I'm guessing nobody wants a night game next week, although it would help Iowa. The crowd, I would have to think. The crowd always seems to be different at night. Steve, college basketball season coming. Arizona and Iowa in the Big Ten. Arizona and Iowa in the Big Ten. Is this a question about realignment, Steve? Be quite an addition, although Arizona very much down in football right now as they're trying to figure out their future. Paul says, are you in an Uber? No, I'm not in an Uber. As you see, the car has not been moving because some people are eating right now. OS for Hawks. Yes, Sean Green punished tacklers, and that's where, and I still think Caleb's got some room to grow as it relates to making guys miss, but he's got the tools. He's got the tools in the toolbox. All right, we do have another caller here on hold. Or no, we don't. I thought we did, but I do not see another caller on hold. All right. Let me see if I'm missing anybody in the comment section. Bud, there's more clowns on here than there is in a 3-ring circus. All right. Well, to recap this, folks, and we still got over 300 people on here, but I've got to get some food in me here soon. So, and for some reason, the car is not moving towards any food. So I guess we're waiting on something here. What are we waiting on? What are you waiting on me for? No. People are looking at me like I know what's going on. I don't have any idea what's going on. Okay. All right, we're good. Let me find the most recent comment here. Tackle, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly or username correctly. We got things hidden in the window. Says Caleb finds holes like I haven't seen in a while. Ari Gold likes Caleb as well. Eric, I didn't mean to miss your comments. I thought I had your comments up there, Eric. Feel free to repost them. I got hundreds of comments I'm sorting through, so I apologize if I missed your comment. Steve says, congratulations on 3,000. Last time I was here, you were at 1,000. Well, I got to know. We're going over some bumps here. I got to know why you're not with us, why you haven't been with us so long, Steve. Hopefully you'll be here for basketball. And Tony, yes, we will have post-game coverage for basketball. Of course, the regular season starting on Monday. Richard says they did pay a tribute in the broadcast to Bill Brazier. That's good to hear. All right. Well, folks, I'm going to last call on the phone. As you can see, the vehicle is starting to. We got somebody who's happy on the brakes here. The last call on the phone lines, 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. You can also join by means of the link in the description below. Become a premium subscriber. Click join. If you're watching this on an iPhone, you may have to log in over the desktop version to become a premium subscriber, but certainly do that and be supporting the show. And of course, you'll receive some extra perks as well. Apologize for the bumpiness here for a few minutes. Okay. Reminder too, if you have not already done so, you can reach out to me to inquire about sponsorship from the eye of the storm at outlook.com. It's always appreciated. Please subscribe if you've not done so. Please hit the like button. Again, we'll be back with Don Patterson on this coming Wednesday, to discuss Iowa and Purdue. And we'll preview, of course, Iowa, Wisconsin. I have a feeling the show is going to transition more to the Wisconsin side of things by Wednesday. But the second part of Iowa postgame, of course, with Coach Don Patterson coming up on Wednesday. Take one more glance here at the comment section and make sure I'm not missing anything. Esther says, I am a true Iowa Hawkeye fan. What are your thoughts on the next Iowa game? Wisconsin's playing well. They seem to have kind of figured things out to some extent. I don't think this is the same Wisconsin offensive line that we're accustomed to seeing, but they do seem to have figured things out as it relates to the defensive side of the ball. So they're going to be hard to score on. There's no question about that. Tackle to call says, Corey, do you think Caleb's coming out party to be our number one if he isn't already? He's our number one. He's the number one guy right now. Takai, I'm sorry, I was calling you Tackle. One guy, all right? He carried the ball, 28 times today compared to 22 times? 22 times compared to, I think, 2 total for any other back. I think Arlen Bruce had 1 carry out of the backfield as well. No, he's the workhorse moving forward. Ryan says, wings and beer in the immediate future. Yes, very much possible. And Eric says, where did you hear that Labus could be gone next season? Just rumors, Eric. Not reporting anything. Just continue to hear rumors about guys leaving, guys returning, and I hope he's back. I mean, he's got some athleticism that Iowa has lacked at the quarterback position, but he is not necessarily the type of guy that fits well into the Kirk's philosophy Kirk system. So that's all I'll say. But certainly got to be excited about the future at quarterback. Let's not forget Carson Mays, the freshman. He's a 4-star recruit. So, all right, folks. Again, Wednesday, we'll be back with Coach Patterson. Subscribe here. Please hit the like button on your way out. Appreciate you tuning in for kind of a different version of this show. Iowa wins 24-3. Hawkeyes take down the Boilermakers. Stick right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We'll be back with you soon.